This playlist collects together and organizes the individual component modules, which together will comprise our lecture covering the material from the Enlightenment to roughly the first third of the 20th century. Our focus really will be the presentation of the more or less standard material that you'll cover in a typical philosophy of mind course. We'll introduce the relatively ahistorical characterization of the mind and the physical world. We'll discuss the differences between various versions of oppositional dualism, various versions of monism. We'll discuss the arguments that occur about which is the most promising ontological framework moving forward that are pretty common material in a contemporary philosophy of mind course and that emerged really by the 1930s or so and reflected a sort of normal philosophy, a well understood set of research projects, the goal of which was to establish through a priori or other arguments which of the various ontological frameworks was the best to adopt in both philosophy and in biology and other sciences to understand the nature of the mind. One characteristic of this period of time is that there is this characterization now of the mind and the physical world as two domains, each with distinct and relatively well-specified phenomenon. A problem starts to come into focus. How best to characterize each of those domains so as to, on the one hand, formulate rigorous predictive, retrodictive, manipulative, and explanatory accounts of the phenomenon within that domain using that characterization, while on the other hand, using those characterizations to formulate rigorous predictive, retrodictive, manipulative, and explanatory accounts of the interactions between the two domains. This consolidation, this mental distillation that occurs in part at the beginning of the Enlightenment with the rebirth and development of anatomy and physiology. It continues into the development of biology and the development of organic chemistry. And all of these forces serve to do two things, really. They serve to help separate out life from mind. And specifically, they also help to demystify a physical basis for life. The development of biology, specifically the development of contemporary biology that is heavily physiological, chemical, and evolutionary in its characterization, that offers up mechanistic explanations of the various properties associated with being alive. This occurs in part because of the development of physiology and anatomy, in part because of the development of biology, the introduction of the theory of evolution, and also in part because of the development of organic chemistry. With these three pieces in place, it's clear that life has a strong physiological basis, that we can understand and explain the functions that we normally attributed to élan vital, this sort of special force or structure that was unique to living things, at least so it was thought, until about the first third of the 19th century. Once this occurs, life now has a separation from philosophy of mind, at least in theoretic and academic circles. In ordinary circles, there's still a conflation between being alive and having a mind. There's also religious considerations. People want to be immortal. If you ask somebody why it is they believe in the immortal nature of the soul as being distinct from the physical body, oftentimes what they'll say isn't, well, the evidence suggests. It'll be, well, I don't want to die. Once that separation occurs, then we start to see a focus on more or less mental functioning and mental properties that we usually associate with the mind.